Welcome back to Steve's World of Wonders.
The restored shop fronts along the east side of Sussex Drive are relics of businesses that served the lumber trade in the Ottawa Valley, where wood was king in the 19th century. Forest industries turned old Ottawa into a boom and bust mill town, and the shops on this street into bustling centers of commerce. After a hard winter felling timber in the woods, lumberjacks collected their pay and set out to have some fun. For many, this meant celebrating in the taverns on Sussex Street, commercial artery in Ottawa's lower town. Canada's capital is young, but the land is old, and people have lived here for a long, long time. time. After the glaciers melted and the waters of the Champlain Sea retreated from this valley 10,000 to 13,000 years ago, the first humans started to arrive in the region 6,000 to 7,000 years ago. They likely came in small bands, some traveling by canoe, others on foot, and camped on the sloping northern banks of the river before you. Century after century, they fished in these waters, hunted in forests along the river banks, and traded far and wide. The river, the Kitchissippi, Great River, to the Algonquins and later the Ottawa to the Europeans, stretches northwestward into the heart of Canada and southwestward to the mighty St. Lawrence River. Imagine the voyagers, the fur traders, who in centuries past camped on these wild shores. The Ottawa River is part of a 5,000-kilometer system of waterways that, for thousands of years, carried Aboriginal traders across the heart of the continent. In the 17th century, European explorers and traders, drawing on the knowledge of the Aboriginal peoples, traveled westward into the wilderness. In their footsteps came the huge fur-trading canoes of the Northwest Company. Every spring the great brigades came surging up the Ottawa River on their way from Montreal to Lake Superior, until at last, after 2 centuries, they passed forever into the mists of time. Explorer, mapmaker, and governor Samuel de Champlain, who founded Quebec in 1608, was one of the first Europeans to explore Canada. He first traveled the Ottawa River in 1613, keeping a journal and taking measurements with an astrolabe, ordinarily used for navigation at sea. Building for a new Canada. Standing here in 1860, you would have heard the sound of hammers and the creak of winches from across the river as construction began on Canada's Parliament buildings. As recently as 1857, Canadians have been embroiled in a raging debate over the choice of a permanent capital. When Queen Victoria finally chose Ottawa, a ramshackle lumber town in the middle of nowhere, politicians howled for a reversal of the decision. The Governor-General wrote glumly of exile to the wilderness. An American journalist joked that the invaders would get lost in the forest trying to find Canada's capital. In fact, Ottawa was a brilliant choice, standing at the confluence of English and French cultures. Some say that Queen Victoria stuck a pin in the map and chose Ottawa as the new capital over the claims of 4 rival cities, Quebec, Montreal, Kingston, and Toronto. Others say she was impressed by watercolors showing the dramatic landscape on the Ottawa River. In fact, the Queen chose Ottawa after serious consideration and on the advice of trusted advisors. Alexandra Interprovincial Bridge, National Historic Civil Engineering Site. Constructed using the most advanced technologies available at the time, the Alexandra Bridge stands today as evidence of the outstanding ingenuity and foresight of Canadian engineers. Start of construction, February 1898. Inauguration, March 1901. Commemoration, June 1995. Canadian Society for Civil Engineering. This bridge was built by the Dominion Bridge Company of Lachine, Quebec, an H.D. Beamer contractor for the Pontiac Pacific Junction Railway and the Ottawa Gatineau Railway. Construction began in February 1898. The bridge was opened to the public in March 1901. Settlement on the Ottawa River came first to the gently sloping north shore, and here also the first industries took root. The nearby confluence of three rivers, the Ottawa, Gatineau, and Rideau, made an area a natural gathering place. Aboriginal hunters and traders camped here for centuries. Settlers, led by the visionary Philemon Wright, came upriver in 1800 and cut farms out of the forest. Later, the area's surging falls made Hull, today's Gatineau, a magnet for industrial pioneers in search of power, a city of lumber and pulp mills for most of recent history. Hull was transformed into a white-collar city in the 1970s.
Okay.